Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jeff Becker from Control SEL, and so I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and chances are if you work with teenagers, you probably have been too. So at schools, whenever we head out, we always talk to principals, counselors, and teachers about the things that they're seeing in the classroom, like the behaviors that the students are exhibiting. So like 100 times out of 100, somebody always brings up the lack of self-discipline in today's students. So I decided to dig up as much research as I could on the subject, and I found some really cool stuff. So the first big thing that stuck out to me was the fact that the reason behind the lack of self-discipline isn't what we probably thought it was. In other words, if you were to say to a bunch of people, why do you think that students don't have self-discipline or don't use self-discipline, or what we call in the SEL world, a lack of self-management or that competency, what would your hypothesis be? And like I said, I found out that it isn't even what I thought it would be. So two things I want to do today. I obviously want to talk to you about the cause of the lack of self-discipline and what the solutions are, but also I want to teach you through something called the fundamental attribution error. So the fundamental attribution error, it's a really fun thing. It refers to an individual's tendency, mine, yours, everybody, to attribute another person's actions to their character or their personality, while attributing our own behavior to external factors or things out there that are outside of our control. So here's a fantastic example of that. Imagine that you're sitting in a staff meeting, you're in the media center or the cafeteria or whatever, wherever you have your staff meetings, and the meeting just started 3 or 4 minutes ago, and one of your colleagues walks in with a jumbo-sized iced Dunkin' coffee. Now, I'm going to speak for myself because I don't like to point fingers, but for some reason my brain immediately goes to the idea that that person's late for that meeting because they didn't value it, or like they didn't care about it, or they didn't care enough to be on time. And I start to think this ugly thing like, well, I had to be on time. Why don't they have to be on time? And so now if you were to ask that person about why they're late to that staff meeting, they would inevitably tell you that has something to do with external factors that were outside of their control, i.e., I don't know, there was a traffic jam, or somebody was being super slow, like there was a new employee at Dunkin' Donuts and they got stuck in the drive-thru, or they had a flat tire, or one of their kids took 6 hours to find one of their shoes, but you see what happened there? We tend to think their behavior has something to do with their character or their personality, when if that happened to us, we would inevitably have about 1,000,001 excuses why that thing happened. So here's what I'm getting at. Myself included, we can be guilty of using the fundamental attribution error when it comes to our students, can't we? A lot of times we attribute their shortcomings to a flaw in their character, or even worse, we generalize it over the entire generation that they belong to. I hear it all the time, online and in person. This generation's lazy, or kids nowadays and their dang phones, and this generation has no ambition, they're soft, or they have no drive, they have no perseverance, they have no grit, no self-discipline, whatever. What we find in research actually shows us that that's not actually the case with this whole self-discipline thing. Okay then, so let's talk about the research. In a research article, there was this researcher, his name is Michael Inslicht. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but anyway, he and his team, they theorized that the cause of the lack of self-discipline in anyone, me, you, students, whoever, actually has more to do with fear than it has to do with a character flaw or like a weak social and emotional competency. So to understand what Inslicht was talking about, I want you to imagine a scale. So on one side, you have things that you need to do, or things that you have to do in order to reach your future hopes and dreams. So we will call them the have-tos. Okay, if I want to go to college, I know I have to show up to school. I have to tell my friends that I can't go out this weekend because I have to study for the ACTs. I have to take the ACTs. I have to ignore my phone. I have to go to bed earlier than some of my friends. I have to tell my girlfriend or boyfriend that I can't hang out every single day. So you see what I'm saying? There are have-tos. But then on the other side of the scale, there are want-tos. These are pretty obvious. There are all those other things that you want to be doing instead of the things that you have to be doing. And for students, it's like Netflix, TikTok, Snapchat, hanging with friends, staying up late, eating tons of junk food, skipping ACT prep. You get the idea. Want tos versus have tos. So it takes a certain amount of bravery for all humans to choose the have tos over the want tos, doesn't it? Like, let's say you're trying to lose 15 pounds or gain 15 pounds or whatever. There are things that you have to do, but it takes bravery for you to choose that new behavior and engage in that new behavior, largely because of the uncertainty of the outcome. Think about that. There's like no guarantee in the world that this new diet's gonna work out or this workout regimen's gonna work out. Like, what if you wake up every day at 5 a.m. for a month and you don't lose an ounce of weight? You're gonna feel embarrassed and you're gonna feel as sluggish as usual, and you're gonna have missed out on all of that lounging and all of that comfort food and those good movies and the extra sleep. You see, it boils down to this. We still have a lot of prehistoric wiring in our heads that makes us want to lean to what's certain and what's safe rather than what's uncertain and only possibly beneficial. Insulik used the example of foraging animals like rabbits. So like foraging animals have to decide whether to continue finding and eating and storing the same food rather than going off to a new unknown place to get new food. So as you would guess, and as you know, like rabbits aren't doing any new exploring in 2022, 2023. They're choosing these old behaviors because they know that they're safe and certain. And I think that's what a lot of us do. And I think that's what a lot of our students do too. Okay, so now let's go back to that like college example to kind of bring this thing full circle. So that's a scary thing for a kid, a teenager, telling your friends that you can't hang out, staying home and studying while people are out having fun and doing fun stuff, and or like even going to bed early when you're in a group chat with people. Nobody wants to be the first one to go to bed, or telling your significant other who you think you're in love with, like, sorry, babe, we can't go to Wendy's for a Frosty. I got to go to bed early because I have ACTs or I have to do ACT prep or something like that. Those decisions and behaviors carry a scary risk for students. Telling your best friend that you shouldn't sit next to them because you know that you're going to get into trouble in chemistry class, or like apologizing to a teacher in front of the class when you know you're wrong, writing like a 5 to 7 page paper instead of going to all the football games and practices and stuff like that. So anyway, all of that to say, when we think about our kids and we think that they're just being lazy, when we think this generation has forgotten the meaning of hard work and we're afraid the future of the country is riding on this lazy generation and we're all doomed, sometimes, and maybe this research isn't always the case, but sometimes our students are afraid to go into the unknown. So instead of using our scare tactics or our like motivational speeches, we can meet them where they are. We can validate what they're feeling because now we're using that empathy muscle. Because we've been there, haven't we? Build the relationship so they trust us, speak to their fears, reassure them that success is on the other side, and that it's much better than Frosties at Wendy's. And when we do that as the adults, as the mentors in their life, I think we'll see a change in not only the way that our students use their ability to be disciplined, I think it's going to change the way that they view us too. And that just might even bring us an even higher level of job satisfaction in the process.